How's it going, Twitch? My name is Skull, and on behalf of East Asia Soft, welcome to today's stream. Today is Sunday, which means it's time for me to continue my playthrough of The Letter, out now physically on Nintendo Switch, through our Play Asia's exclusive program. I started saying that right and then completely fell apart. Through our physical EAS program through PlayAsia.com. So, if you want the chance of owning this game physically on Nintendo Switch, copies are available right now for you to order through PlayAsia, and they'll be on your doorstep by the end of the month if you order right now. This is my 10th day playing this game here on stream, if you could believe that. That's crazy. As such, that means that you're going to be kind of lost if you just now start watching. So I highly recommend that if you want to get caught up on what's going on, head over to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/EastAsiaSoft so that you can get caught up on this. We archive all of our streams there, so yeah. If you want to get caught up, that's the perfect way to do it. Let's go ahead and continue where we left off. We have been using Rebecca. We are in control of Rebecca. That is the character that we are in control of right now. Let me go ahead and move my webcam back up there where it belongs. There we go. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and continue. It's not the excited chatter that stops me once I'm in the small auditorium. Rather, it's the sheer lack of one. The hall's not completely empty, no. From where I'm standing, I can still spot a couple of heads dotting the seats, some nodding, mostly engaged in cheerful conversation before the film starts. But the absence of a bigger audience, and what few murmurs floating in the air, only made the room seem a lot larger than it actually is.
Surely this can't be all there is from that crowd outside.
They had to close a whole street for this, didn't they? In any case, this is still just the first showing. For sure it'll have a bigger turnout in the next one. However, despite these reassurances, a pang of worry still hits me as I stride down the aisle, passing by rows after rows of empty seats in search of Ash. I don't even want to think of how Zachary would feel after all the effort he put into this. Though, if there's still any comfort here, it's that there'll be less chances of loud interruptions, particularly from theatergoers lacking manners. And the fact I'll be spending the evening with a friend. And Ashton. A familiar warmth, one I've harbored longer than anything, immediately unfurls at my stomach, in spite of myself, in spite of the reasons I've convinced myself of for being here. Naturally, those are not lies, they never are. I'm here to give what little moral support boost I can lend to a friend. But I won't deny Ashton has been a part of it too. Sometimes you simply can't say no, and once you realize logic's no longer at play, striking a fair balance with reason becomes harder, trickier. It's not like I can simply ask myself to stop or forget for a moment, can I? It doesn't work that way. Not after I've gone and loved the same person for 17 years. If only he'd look this way for once. Even for a short, fleeting second. Then, maybe.
Okay, listen. I personally know the guy. He might be able to help. I can easily get in touch with him if you want, so...
I thought we all agree there'd be no what calls tonight. Pay up, Ash. That pizza fund box needs some cash.
Sucker. All he gives me for an answer is a glance and a small smile, yet it still sends the heat swirling in my stomach, rising up my cheeks. A feeling I instantly pull the reins in on as I take the empty seat next to him. Treacherous little thing, that smile. I don't think he's ever been aware of what it does to any woman who happens to catch sight of it. He wouldn't have thrown it out so casually otherwise. Then again, it's also one of the few things he allows only the people close to him to see.
Sorry, just a sec, Becca. Hey, I gotta go. If you get this message, just let me know, okay? I'll free up my schedule if you want to check with him. No fees attached. I promise. Bye.
Fees? You're not doing anything illegal, are you?
You know me better than that.
Inspector Abigail?
Yeah. No! I am not losing that bet. Don't count on it.
Oh, come on, Ash. It's not like it's going to put a dent in your paycheck. Which one is it? Officer Carl? Officer Benjamin? The chief?
None of the above. And Chief hates it when I call him. Give it up.
Ash stops a moment when I hold my hand up to him, the expression on my face expecting, although a smile threatens to break through at the baffled look spreading on his own. He resembles a lost child like this. Sometimes I forget we're the same age.
What?
Mobile.
And why?
Evidence. What else? You always preach they don't lie. Put your money where your mouth is. Show.
He blinks once, then sighs. Hi, Dim, how are you doing? Yeah, I am an hour early. For another few weeks, I guess, until you guys go through daylight savings change as well. But hey, nice of you to pop in. Hello. Even if it's even for a moment. Rather loudly at that, with every intention to let the whole auditorium know how tedious he finds this little back and forth. Just the same, he raises the gadget up to my face, but before I can even read past a single letter, he swiftly slides it out of view and straight into his pocket.
It's not work. I swear by my badge.
Oh, just admit you didn't want to pay. You're a worse cheapskate than Belle.
Becca, look at me. Tell me, does this face seem like it's lying to you?
Maybe. Here's an idea then. Why don't you find a mirror and answer that yourself?
Pass. I've seen it plenty. It still looks the same. Honestly, it's getting boring.
Do these voice clips sound a little compressed right now?
All right, suit yourself. Just remember, I'm not the one who got caught breaking a deal we all made.
Well, there you go, Dim. Next weekend.
Really, Rebecca, it's not what you're thinking. A friend just needed help with the problem. It's nothing big enough that I'll run off on you two. Don't worry.
It's a sign. Time to end this little banter. As fun as this chat has been, some lines he simply doesn't allow me to cross, regardless of the years we spent growing up together. Especially with the sort of work he does. Of course, that doesn't mean I haven't tried. I still do from time to time, hoping he'll at least share something more substantial than his routine vague answers. Occasionally, he'll talk about it as if we ask. We'll talk about it if we ask, but never in full detail, and only stuff we need to know. In case we need to look for his dead body, he joked one time. He doesn't repeat it after a stern look from me, but it doesn't make the whole situation any less frustrating.
Where's the big guy, by the way? He can't be missing from his own premiere.
Food. Is there something you want? I could...
Nah, it's good. He'll know what to get. Frankly, I'm more worried about him. Do you think Zach's gonna be okay with this?
I don't need to follow where he directs his eyes next to know what he's talking about. I've seen it with my own, felt the exact same doubt.
I honestly don't know. I only have a small idea of how these things work. But he put a lot of effort into this. Someone will certainly notice.
He did put a chunk of his savings on it. He was hoping to start a small studio when it takes off. If it takes off.
You doubt him?
No, just concerned, I guess. As far as I know, the whole fund was initially for the studio. Space, equipment, that kind of stuff. I have no idea what suddenly came over him. He already had enough to start one on his own. Why would he use it for something else?
I'm sure it'll be fine. Zachary knows what he's doing. He had me check the scripts and the research he did before he went through with this. His personal experience with the topic also counts. I think he's onto something here.
He merely lets out another hum, only I can't figure out if it's in agreement or meant to be something else. The whole conversation dies down soon after, and a silence falls between us. A strange kind of atmosphere that teeters between tense and uncomfortable, almost to the point of awkward. Between the two of us, this rarely ever happens. We've already gone past this point as children. Yet, Ashton can't seem to sit still. discreetly checking his phone every few seconds, glancing back at the entrance when he thinks no one's paying attention. Even when people started to trickle into the room and fill some of the vacant seats. It makes the wait for Zachary all the more longer than it should be. In the thick of it, I find myself grasping for something else to talk about, just to calm the growing restlessness in my stomach. But in practice, it's far from an easy task. Not that there's a great lack of things to chat about, quite the opposite in fact, and getting a conversation with him is a breeze when you're already familiar with him. It just so happens that by nature, Ashton and I are people rarely predisposed to small talk. He'll stick to his music, I'll keep to my books, as if living in a world of our own. There's a sort of understanding in it, in solitude's appeal, that only two of us appear to grasp. Like this, we don't have to talk. The other's company is almost always enough. That's what I believed then, anyway. Until our small bubble grew to include more than just us, and little by little, we've begun to move away from that quiet, tiny sanctuary. Somehow, words have ceased to be more than just a mere option after, and picking the right one is now a necessity.
So, you were at the mansion?
A question innocent enough, yet the air changes around him almost palpably. And when his lips form a thin line and his jaw tenses, I know right away he has found the words I've chosen a huge bother to answer, if not utterly unnerving. The why confuses me. The careful tone he takes, even more so. Normally, I'll back away as soon as the mood around him shifts before his response even comes, but the change prods at that ugly little feeling I've been keeping at bay since earlier. Somehow, whatever his answer will be, feels like it will sate something more than just my curiosity.
What about it?
Oh, just wondering, I guess. It simply didn't cross my mind you'd be there, is all.
I happened to pass by.
Well, that's different. Your cases rarely ever take you out of Luxborn, don't they? What changed this time?
What makes you think a case is the reason why I was out there?
Maybe it's because you don't usually go out of town much? I could count on one hand the number of times you did in the past 5 years, you know.
Only 5 times to be exact. Once on a trip to a nearby county where his father lives. Twice to stay with Zachary's grandparents for the weekend upon their invitation, and another to attend 2 of his mom's concert performances overseas. Basically, if he thinks it doesn't concern him, he won't budge from where he's already made himself comfortable. That, and he hates going on long drives, much less any trips taking him away from the city. If he ever gives the impression of a lazy guy at first glance, well, that's exactly what he is. His little detour today, though, if it isn't for a case, then what else can it be? Really, he needs to give me more credit than that.
Anselm's hardly out of town. It's a 30-minute drive, Becca.
True, but I know you. You most certainly aren't there for a stroll or the view.
Did it even occur to you I might be checking the open house?
You hate gatherings like that.
I like them well enough when I have to.
Don't kid yourself. Why would you even need a mansion that big? You barely stay in your own flat.
Your cat stole most of the chair. Well, that chair belongs to your cat now. Forever.
Shirley needs a fancy garage?
Will you quit the sass? And I doubt Belle even invited your ass over there. You're the last person she'd ever want to see while hosting an open house. You do annoy her sometimes.
I'm looking forward to seeing Ashton's story because he's been popping up more and more often in all of these, and he seems to have impressions about stuff going on that we aren't knowing about. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Ashton knows that we don't.
Rebecca, Christ, why do I always have to spell everything out? I already said it. I just happened to pass by. It was after I finished some work. No one invited anyone. Isabella has got nothing to do with it. I invited myself. End of story.
There's no anger in his tone. It's merely the sound of finality, of wanting to be done with this whole dumb exchange. but the weight it carries snaps the last line, keeping that awful feeling and my own temper in check. It snowballs from there. My mouth moves before any other rational thought catches up to it.
So there is a case. You don't have to keep those things from me. Just say you have one. I'm not asking you to explain anything.
Why do you even want to know if there is one in the first place? And even if there is, you know the details are always off limits.
I don't. I couldn't care less if it's a case or not. But I could stand to be answered properly instead of being given vague, mindless answers. It's a simple yes or no question, Ash, for goodness sake.
You've known longer than anyone how I work, Rebecca. This shouldn't be surprising to you.
Wow, she wasn't kidding about that temper.
Ashton, in case you didn't notice, people do worry about you. Every time you're out who knows where, playing your little detective game. Is that such a hard concept to grasp?
Well, maybe you should have said so in the first place instead of... Damn it. Just drop this, Rebecca. This isn't going anywhere.
What the bloody hell is your problem?
Temper.
You've been in this stupid, wretched mood since earlier. At least try to hold an actual conversation if you can't be bothered to tell why you're in such a black mood.
I could say the same thing about you. Can we just move on to something else, please? I've heard enough arguments to fill my quota for the day. If we keep at it, this is going to end up worse than the one we had with Isabella.
One name. A hush overcomes me. Not because his words have completely tempered my anger. No, it's still there. It swells, churns, rages within me, waiting. But whatever else I've yet to say, born from it, I hold back. All of them. Every bitter word, I leave them all unspoken in favor of giving a quiet voice to that one tiny realization. The very same one, that awful feeling, has been whispering to my ears all this time. Isabella was the main character from this part, but the way this game works is that you play the same week over and over and over again from different characters' perspectives. We started with Isabella, then we got Hannah, then we got Zachary, the guy who made the film we're about to watch, and then we got Marianne, and now we're seeing it through Rebecca's point of view, and I'm willing to bet that Ashton will be next. The game works that you just play the same thing over and over and over again from different characters' perspectives. Yes, you're right though, Dim. Isabella was the main character from the start. You are correct.
It wasn't really because of a case, was it? You were there for something else.
Someone else.
How did you even get to that? Didn't we already establish why I was there? Why are we going back to this again?
You could have just said so. It's not like it would make a difference.
Now, Rebecca she's kind of a cynic, isn't she? She's kind of mean.
In the end, she's not even here.
Wait, what the hell are you going on about this time?
I could have easily answered that one. Perhaps with a good serving of the anger that's been stewing inside me, seasoned with more venom than I'm accustomed to showing him. He's lucky Zachary chooses that moment to show up, carrying bags of popcorn on both arms and totally oblivious to what occurred. I couldn't have asked for a better moment for someone to interfere.
Sorry, Ash, they ran out of... Am I interrupting something?
A smile is the only answer I give him before I stand up and gesture for him to take the seat I vacated. When I start speaking again, my tone is as casual as I can manage, above the struggle with my own frustration.
No harm done. We were just talking.
Really? Just talking. This ain't a good time, we can postpone this.
Just take the damn seat, Zach.
He immediately does so, albeit awkwardly, while I flop down next to him.
Okay. Clue me in if someone's about to lose it. Just so, you know, I can get out before anything happens.
I love Zach. He's a gentle giant. I love him so much. And that's that. The movie starts minutes after. But for the better half of the evening, only a strained mood permeates in the air between us, my own irritation winding and unwinding inside me. In the midst of it all, a single thought nudges at me. Would it have been any different if Isabella were here? The rest of the evening passes without further event, though we don't stay long after. Some plans were made for after the movie the night before, but they're mostly Isabella's suggestions, and with her absent, there isn't much point to it, is there? We'll just have to find some other time, preferably when everyone's in a better frame of mind. Certainly not when the rest of us are this exhausted, have things nagging at the back of our minds, or this emotionally drained. That little disagreement with Ashton feels like a warning sign already, and it's not a line I'm willing to test tonight. Sometimes there are things you simply can't force. A sentiment we all likely share at that moment, if the silence before we part ways tells anything. Even Zachary seems reluctant to break it.
Well, it was fun, despite, you know. But really, thanks for staying, you two.
Don't mention it. It's the least we can do.
Nah, I owe you both. Especially you. You sure you don't want payment for all that history checking you did?
Quite sure. Oh, you know what? On second thought, just save it for when you win an award.
That's a sly line. I gotta use that sometime.
Treat us someplace nice or something.
I doubt it'll go that far.
Oh, please. Think positive for once.
I hear you, ma'am. I hear you.
Then put some back into it.
It's really too early to say, but here's hoping, I guess. We'll see. Anyhow, I'm off. Got some new photography gig lined up in the next few days. But just call me anytime you guys want to hang out. Sketch should be easy to free up for some R&R now. How about you, Ash? You coming with?
Is that a European phrase? Sked should free up? Because I've never heard that before, and now I just heard it twice in 10 minutes in this game. We both glance his way, though mine probably comes off sharper, more scrutinizing. He hasn't said a word since we left the theater, his eyes completely glued to his phone as soon as the movie ended. Typical. He doesn't even spare me a look when he slides his phone back in his pocket and answers.
Oh, yeah. I need to double check something with the guys at the precinct.
Same way then. You gonna be fine on your own, Rebecca?
My car's parked just a block away from here. It should be an easy walk. But both of you should get going if you're in a hurry.
Right. Drop us a message when you get home. And that thing with Isabella, too, when you get a chance to see her. See ya.
Yeah, I will. Be careful, you two. Bye.
Also, I just found out there is a relationship bracket that you could put here, which is interesting. So you could go through. Oh, I guess we'll be playing as Ashton and then Luke at the very end. Idiot face. We'll get to play as him. But yeah, we get to go through and actually see what everyone's relationships look like with everyone else, which is kind of cool. They leave without a backward glance. But despite my own exhaustion and the strong desire to go home, I remain on the same spot for some scant seconds still. Watching them, trying to figure out where to go from here, as if the answer can be found in their retreating backs. If Zachary hasn't mentioned Isabella again, I probably would have forgotten about his request. I would have simply left the anger to subside until we can pretend like nothing happened. When I finally crossed the street, long after they disappeared behind the evening crowd, I only have one choice in mind. She's not answering, though. I let it ring another second before making a swipe at the screen and dropping the call. I don't bother stopping myself from releasing a loud sigh this time, long and weary, heavy with every frustration in my body today. By this hour, she's probably already back home, and it's very likely she has holed herself up in her apartment. I won't be surprised. She's done that before, very much like a kid throwing a tantrum.
I just don't understand her sometimes.
I don't understand why she can't get a hint. Why she doesn't think she's being ridiculous. Why, of all people, we're the ones she has to play some dumb Halloween prank on? Granted, Ashton's the one who started it, but did she think it'd be a good idea to go with that story?
It makes you wonder why we're friends, but here we are.
Now I'm left to fix things with her. If I'm going to be honest, not having her around for a few hours today is a welcome break. Peace and quiet is the one thing you'll rarely get with her around. Yet the silence and lack of her presence is nowhere near comforting. It merely lends to the air this strange clarity, every little sound, every single movement, more palpable. With it comes unease. It hasn't really left me this afternoon, and against everything I've wished for today, I find myself yearning for an interruption and dial her number again. As frustrating as today is, I can also use a friendly voice. It rings for a good minute or two. Until, just when I'm beginning to think she's not going to answer this either, the line picks up.
Belle, hey! Just checking on you. I'm on my way home. Is there something you want me to pick up for you? You probably skipped dinner, didn't you? Don't worry, that diner a block away is still open. Want me to buy you anything from there? Isabella?
A jolt of surprise hits me, and in the resulting panic, I accidentally dislodge my mobile from its seat on the dashboard. Soon I'm scrambling blindly for it with my other hand, while keeping a steady eye on the road ahead. Later, Dem. I guess this is what you're going to be left with. See ya Tuesday. Although muffled heavily by the surface, a voice still crackles from the loudspeakers before I can put it back. My temper rises.
What's this? Some sort of practical joke? Isabella, if you think this is fun...
My hand stops dead for a moment. I spare the device a brief glance, waiting. Seconds pass. Nothing happens, though. Frankly, I'm not sure what I'm expecting, but the lines of my mouth forms into a frown regardless.
Isabella? Is everything all right over there?
I have to make a conscious effort not to panic right there and then, although my tight hold on the steering wheel tells a different story altogether.
Isabella? Belle? Hey, Belle, what happened?
Only a burst of static answers me, and...
Help me.
That sounds different. Maybe this lapse is entirely because of exhaustion. It has been a long day, and I haven't fully recovered from last week's bout of flu, contrary to what I've been telling people. Though perhaps had I paid closer attention to it, had I not been so occupied with other thoughts, I probably would have noticed earlier that it never came from my phone, but from somewhere right behind me. Time slows to a crawl. Looking up is a mistake. The first thing I see is its face, a ghastly shade, every inch battered, bruised, and bloodied. Even in the darkness and the world passing by in a blur of lights outside, I could still make out the wounds. Blood still oozes from it, little trails of crimson running down its face, glistening under what little light there is. But it is the gleam in its eyes that catches mine. The quiet plea, the anguish, and the desperation in them. More than its hideous features, and the awful stench of gore now soaking the air. And try as I might, I can't bring myself to look away, even as its lips contort into a horrific smile. Even as a sharp, harsh noise pierces the air, and the silence around us. Against everything I've been taught, and I've constantly reminded myself, I close my eyes. It It's a brief moment. A short, vivid second of muscle memory and instinct completely taking over. And if I didn't allow it, if my hands didn't move, or my feet didn't hit the brakes in that exact second, I might have... No. I shake the notion away before I lose myself in it. Right now, it's an ugly line of thought I refuse to venture into. Not when breathing is a struggle, and every ounce of strength has been totally drained from my body. Most definitely not while the sound of screeching tires still rings in my ears. I'm alive. I'm safe. That's all that matters. But it is not my face that I look for when I finally open my eyes. All gone. I expected stains, little telling marks and creases on the covers to show me where it sat not a second ago. But whoever, whatever it is, it left not a single trace. And though courage is a hard thing to gather at this point, I take what little of it remains in me and turn towards the back seat. Even then, there's nothing. Was there really something in there? With how empty it is, I'm beginning to doubt it. This stupid flu again.
I need a long rest after this.
My hands fall uselessly to my sides, numb from how taut my grip on the wheel has gone, yet still trembling from the unexpected rush of adrenaline. Against my ears, my heart still pounds an erratic rhythm, and my breathing hasn't slowed down. But the world has already righted itself without waiting for me, and little by little, second after second, as I sit here motionless, color begins to seep back around me. Along with it are the sounds and a voice. No longer as indistinct as it was earlier.
Becca, how do you press this button? You've already started recording.
Her voicemail.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Let's see. Hello there, Isabella Santos here. Sorry you missed me. Just leave a message after the beep, and I'll get back to you soon. Thank you. Shut up, Ashton.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
I can hear you thinking about it. Zach, Ashes.
All right, kids, settle down before you break anything.
The recording is old, made early in our friendship. Roughly 3 or 4 years ago, probably. I can't remember now. I'm more surprised Isabella kept this when she could have easily replaced it. But then again, little things like this, no matter how imperfect they may seem, are what made her the happiest. A fond smile slips into my lips before I know it. I allow it to, despite the headache already forming at the sides of my head and every negative thought still swimming inside. When at last I speak, my tone is as light as it can be.
Hey, Belle. I know you're in there. I'm on my way home. If you need anything, send me a message ASAP. I'll see if I can still get it for you. You've got 15 minutes. And, if there's something you want to talk about, let me know, okay? Bye.
The phone call ends with a faint click, and a pensive mood washes over me. With it comes a small truth. Her stay has always been meant to be something fleeting. Earn some good money, go home. It's what she'd tell herself during her first year here. I hear elevator music. Do you guys hear elevator music? I know that song. Now, half a decade later, I'm not sure if she still believes that. Even I'm not sure if I still believe it. And with these ill feelings I carry with me, I'm more inclined to think there's something in her reasons that has changed along the way. They're merely hunches, but it's something I'd rather not bring up, because I'm almost too afraid of what her answer will be. The silence is far from a pleasant company for the rest of my drive, but it's a respite all the same, from an overactive imagination playing tricks on a flu-addled mind, and from smiles never meant for my eyes. All of them I abandon, if only for a brief moment. It begins innocently enough. Tuesday morning arrives like any other day before it, bright and clear. Even though it comes with an extra helping of the unusual October weather, I appreciate being able to catch a glimpse of the clear skies lately. After going through a bout of sickness last week, it does something to lift the mood of what would otherwise be a dreary morning. And despite being mostly a creature of habit, I wind up waking earlier than usual because of it. Still no earlier than Isabella, it appears. I've assumed she'll take a day or two off because of what happened to Miss Cooper, but that doesn't seem to be the case. The sound of the morning news drifts from her unit when I walk past on the way to my mailbox. Chances are around this hour she's already dressed and ready to go, probably just waiting for the next bus to arrive. I tried following her example before, but I don't think I'll repeating that.
Really? How can anyone be up before the sun is up?
See, she gets it. It's a habit she got from home, she said, instilled in her by the kind of life she grew up in. Like clockwork, it's always at 4 a.m., either to help with the chores or prepare her little siblings for school. It surprised me the first time. She just didn't look like someone who could. In the end, I've simply passed it off as one of the many things anyone will have to get used to around her. Not that I'll ever fully understand. And I'm my parents' only child. We aren't well off, but so far I lived in a relatively easy life. I didn't have to think about bills or food for the next day, or paying for any siblings' tuition on top of my own, or supporting a sick father's medication. All I have to worry about were my grades, if I'd gain mom and dad's approval, or what we'll have for dinner. When put next to hers, they all pale in comparison. They look less like problems and more like petty issues this way.
Petty issues?
But as unimportant as it all sounds, sometimes its ugly head rears at the most inappropriate moments. And sometimes they come through your mailbox in the form of a fancy-looking letter, pretty ribbons and all. Whoever sent this has spent silly money on the envelope alone. Verging on ridiculous, really. I can already imagine Isabella wrinkling her nose when she sees it. Then she'll complain about unnecessary expenses and rich people problems. I'm almost afraid to touch it myself. As if simply brushing a hand against its crisp surface will be enough to put a crease on it, and it'll be a terrible slight to the sender. But as extravagant as I find this, it isn't really the first time I've received one. Most of the time it's not even for me, so who am I to complain? Either way, no look of surprise crosses my face once I flip the envelope over to see my parents' names written in a neat script.
Nothing new then.
Their years in the academe naturally brought with it various connections. People from other fields, art, science, business, politics, you name it. Gross. This one, though, gives off a much more personal vibe. Letters like this usually come from old students, people who've grown fond of my parents, and they in turn treat like children of their own. I've only met a few of them. Most have moved on to become successful in their chosen careers, and little letters like this are their way of expressing gratitude. It's one thing Mom and Dad are proud of, rightfully so, and I'm happy for them. But there are times I wish they'll remember they have a daughter here. The real one. Not that it's of any importance now. It's not like they didn't raise me well and provided for me. They did. I wouldn't be where I am now if it weren't for their hard work. And like a dutiful child, I do everything I can to give back. Even if it's as small a thing as letting them know they've got another mail waiting for them. The phone rings for a good minute before someone answers. Mum, her voice as warm as I remember.
Becca?
Hi, Mum. How's the conference going?
Well enough. Until your dad sprained his ankle.
Oh no, is it bad?
I'm all right. In case anyone in this family cares to listen, I'm all right. Very much alive, darling.
I'm all right. Stop bugging me. Yeah, no, I'm with her dad.
And there you have it. He'll be up and walking in a few weeks, don't worry. We're going to have to extend our stay here until it heals, though. Is something the matter?
Nothing big. Just that this mail arrived for you this morning.
A lie. Thankfully, she doesn't notice. Although, if I'm going to be honest, a small part of me yearns for her to do so and ask me about it, but I put down that idea almost as soon as it surfaces. I shouldn't make them fret. They're busy.
What does it say?
Raise your glasses, give cheers to the good times, blah, blah.
You're cordially invited to the Wrights' housewarming party. They know the Wrights? Ermengarde Mansion?
Becca manners. That isn't how I taught you to read.
Sorry. You are cordially... it's an invitation, Mum, for a housewarming party. From, Hannah?
The name rings a bell, though at the moment I can't recall when or where I've heard it recently. It must be nothing too important if I didn't bother committing it to memory. There are a lot of Hannahs in the world, so who knows?
Hannah.
She also wrote you a note, Mum. It says you used to be her private tutor at the Evans mansion, and that she misses you and would love to see you two again.
It makes my heart clench to read another openly say those words to them, the same ones I want to tell them. I want to see you too. It's been years since we've been together as a family, and if there's one thing that hasn't changed from childhood, it's that Mom and Dad are still busy with their respective careers. Out of the country, away on some meeting or symposium, sometimes for months on end. It only grew more frequent with the years until I'm old enough to live on my own. I'd like to think that's how I've become independent at such an early age. They've always praised me for that. At times I wish they didn't.
Evans? Oh, I remember now. Honey, it's Hannah. Hannah Evans. Remember? Bright girl, 2 years older than Becca?
Didn't she get married a few years ago? 7 now, I think. But they grow up so fast, these kids.
Yeah, she invited us to that too. Fonte de Medici. But we missed that one because you had to present your paper in Singapore.
We did send her a note after. Still a shame we couldn't attend, though.
Sorry I couldn't go to your wedding. I was busy touring the world.
What is it about this time?
She sent another invite for a housewarming party. Becca, when is it?
This Friday, Mum.
Oh, that's too bad. We'd love to be there, but Da's not in a condition to go walking around. I guess we'd have to decline again. I really miss that girl.
I could go in your place.
I let it slip without thinking. Personally, I've never been fond of gatherings, regardless of how simple people make it seem. But if there's one thing I hate hearing, that disappointed note in Mom's voice always rings first. Whether it's directed at me or some other thing doesn't matter.
Are you sure? Don't you have work this Friday?
The event will be in the evening, Mum. It shouldn't take anything away from my schedule. It's all right. The invite's for 2 people. I can bring someone with me so things don't get boring.
I see. Maybe you can also invite Ashton?
Mum, that's a sure no from him. He hates attending parties.
Her cheeks just went so red. Redder than the shirt she has.
But I'll see what I can do.
She likes him.
If not, I can always bring Isabella with me. You know her. She won't say no if there's food involved.
Oh, Isabella is wise.
Okay, if it's not going to be a big problem for you, I don't see why not. We owe you this one, darling.
No problem, Mum. I'll even say hi to Hannah for you.
Please do. And let her know we'd love to see her once we're back in the city. Leave her our number or something.
I will.
But you know, the two of you would have become really good friends. Don't you remember? You met with her once. If my memory serves me right, you were 12 then?
This, too, I can't recall. It's probably one of those meetings where we only talked a bit before going our ways. If she did leave an impression, I'm pretty sure I would have written about it somewhere, or at least recognized her name. As it is, the only people I remember clearly from that time in my life is Ashton and Mandy. To some extent. Mom must have sensed my confusion because she laughs. Wonder who Mandy is.
Don't push yourself too hard, darling. Really? It felt like having two daughters back then. Sometimes I wish they didn't send her away to boarding school. But, well, you know how often that goes with them. Still, try talking to her while you're there.
Oh, we'll see. I'll let you know what happens after.
I'm looking forward to it, darling. Take care of yourself.
Will do. You too, Mum. Bye. Tell Da to be careful next time.
She chuckles then. A hearty one, tender, and always light on my ears. She may be a stern teacher, but this is the part of her I love most. The sound of it still echoes even after our call comes to an abrupt end, bringing with it a memory from so many years ago, when life and responsibilities that accompany adulthood are things far from our minds. If given the chance, I'd love to go back to those. I don't dwell on it, though, shaking it all away almost as soon as the memory forms a clear picture in my head. I've always wondered how Isabella can easily pretend everything's normal over a phone call, then bounce back to her usual self immediately after. I've seen her do it plenty of times. For me, it just drains whatever energy I have. And with a whole day of teaching still ahead of me, I can't afford to look exhausted in front of my students. Even for a wee bit, it's never a good example to set. So with another sigh, I put everything at the back of my mind and tread back to my room. The rest of my day waits. 15 minutes later, I'm heading back out, dressed for the day, my car keys in hand. Ordinarily, I don't stop for anything. There's never a need to. That's the beauty of this apartment complex. It's quiet, and everyone keeps to themselves. No useless platitudes in the morning, no need to wear a smile on your face, lest other people are nosy enough to ask. Today, however, the morning broadcast still plays from Isabella's room. My brisk pace slows to a stop, and a frown gradually forms in my face.
She hasn't left.
Of course, this isn't unusual. There are times when I've left earlier than she did, like last Friday before their open house. But those days are few and far between. It only happens in the direst circumstances, though the last part of that might be a bit of an exaggeration. However, with what's happened in the last few days, maybe today is one. The death of a friend isn't something anyone can brush off, and for someone like Isabella's the kind who gets attached to people easily. With Zachary Ashton and I, that has been the case. I can't imagine what she might be going through right now, especially when the woman she was someone she owed a lot, despite their training being brief. I've given her the space last night in deference, but today, perhaps, might be the proper time to check on her.
Oh, whatever. I've still got time anyway.
With light steps, I move closer to the door, hand already poised to knock. Still, I don't do so until I hear her answer me.
Isabella? Belle? Are you in there?
No answer. After a second, I finally knock, lightly so I don't disturb her, in case she's sleeping and has merely left the telly running last night. Never mind how she never lets that happen. Ever. Waste of electricity and all.
I just want to check on you before I leave. Is that okay? Are you going to work today? Belle?
Still nothing.
I'm about to leave. If you want, I can drop you off.
Another round of knocking. Then I'm fishing out a copy of her key from my bag and unlocking the door. She lent it years ago after I complained about the mess and offered my help in cleaning up. I thought the gesture was completely unnecessary back then. After all, I could always knock. But she never did bother taking them from me, always returning it or turning away from the conversation whenever I insist. At one point, I've simply stopped trying to hand it back to her.
Isabella? I'm coming in, all right?
Without waiting for her to answer, I push the door open and step inside. Her unit's still a mess. Instant noodle cups on the table, a pile of clothes on one side, paper strewn about everywhere, and an unkempt bed, among other things. This much is a given. Will always be a given. I've been here several times already, and I still wonder how she can function like a human with this place being in this state. However, that's neither here nor there. I'm not sure what I'm expecting, but certainly not finding an empty flat. Granted, she could have left earlier, far earlier than usual. But she never, ever leaves without making sure she's unplugged everything. That's something she doesn't forget to do. It doesn't help that her bathroom appears unused this morning. Another habit, and it can only mean she hasn't been here since last night. Perhaps even since the morning after Miss Cooper's death? Either idea doesn't sit well with me, what with the news we've been hearing lately.
The authorities are still trying to find the cause of death for all the victims. Early investigation revealed most of them were employed under Briar Realty Corporation at the time of death. Meanwhile, BRC has refused to comment on this.
Gathering my wits, I immediately place a call to her mobile. It rings for a good minute, the sound of comfort in itself, but when another minute rolls by without her answering. Well, I'm not a woman prone to panicking. Sudden bounce of temper maybe, but never panic, despite how I may sound when speaking. And when it ultimately goes straight to her voicemail, a sigh is the only thing I let out. So I know where she went. She went to Zachary's house. We know that, but Rebecca doesn't know that. The pause doesn't last long, though. In the next moment, my fingers are already moving across the screen in search of the two people who might be able to help. It's Ashton's number I find first and dial. Call it a habit, but even Isabella thinks he's dependable when the situation calls for it, despite how much give each other grief. That already says a lot about him. There's Zachary, but around this hour, he's probably still sleeping. If he has freelance work, it's very likely he's just gotten himself in bed. He's the last person I want to bother, if anything. The wait doesn't take long. Soon a click. Then Ashton's voice echoes through the receiver, rough and still heavy with sleep. He never did grow fond of mornings.
Becca? Christ, what time is it? What's up?
Not you, apparently.
Good one.
I'm with him.
Did you call us early just to make that joke? I'm going back to sleep.
No, Ash, hold on. This is important.
Becca, stakeout last night. Make this quick.
What was he doing with a stakeout?
I've still got a few hours before the chief bothers me.
Sorry, I'll let you go back to sleep after. It's just that... Wait, you were on a stakeout last night?
Did I say that? Shit.
Yeah, busted.
Forget I said that. Forget I said anything. Forget we had this conversation.
So, you have no idea?
About what? About what? I also have no idea why we're talking so early in the morning, so there's that.
No, will you stop sleep talking or whatever for a second? Belle didn't come home last night. She's gone.
Who?
Isabella!
Instead of an answer, a brief pause comes after, followed by something blunt and heavy hitting a hard surface and a string of rather colorful curses from him. The moment might have been one of the many things I'll keep to myself and remember fondly in the next few days if things aren't the way they are. When he picks up again, there's no trace of sleep left in his voice.
Say that again, from the top.
Isabella's gone, Ash. She didn't come home last night. Her flat's empty. She left her telly running. You know she doesn't do that at...
Okay, Becca, stop. Calm down first. You're starting to panic.
I'm not!
You are. Breathe. One person's not going to simply disappear like that. This is Isabella we're talking about. Did you try calling her?
What did you think is the first thing I did? She's not picking up. It went to her voicemail.
How about Zach? Did you check with him?
Not yet. I didn't want to bother him. You know he has trouble sleeping and all that.
All right, I'll go ask Zach. I'll call you back.
No, wait!
He ends the call before I can utter a single word of protest. But for the first time since entering this room, tension is gone from my shoulders and my breathing has eased. The bed creaks as I sit down on it with a sigh. The telly still blares the same uninteresting news and I'm surrounded by clutter. All the same, it feels strangely calm to be here without worry nagging at me. I'll have to apologize to Zachary later for sending Ashton his way this early, But for now, relying on the letter for this isn't the wrong choice. The latter for this isn't the wrong choice. It never will be. That's something I won't ever doubt in him, much like his promises. And true to his word, he calls back only a few minutes after the last one has ended.
She's with Zach.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. She could have at least sent a message last night.
What are you, her mother?
It's one thing to hear that from Isabella, but from Ashton?
I don't want to hear anything like that from you.
I'm serious. You've got to stop treating her like she's one of your students, Becca. You don't have to keep tabs on her every time. Last I checked, she's only 3 years younger than the two of us. That's almost a decade gap from those kids you're teaching, you know.
Says the person who keeps calling her Scaredy Cat.
That's not related at all. Anyway, I'll go check how she's doing. Don't stress yourself out. You go ahead to work.
Becca seems to be the only one who can actually get Ashton to fumble over his words. That's so funny.
Wait, you? Don't you have a precinct to be at? Whatever happened to not treating her like one of my students? Because if anyone's going to ask me, I think you're doing the same thing.
Zach said it's an emergency. Something happened last night.
Emergency?
He didn't put in those exact same words, but it sounded like it.
Ash, what really happened? Is Isabella fine?
She's alright. She's safe. Zach let her stay the night after she... Look, okay. Z-Man wasn't clear about it, but let me handle this. I'll check on her. I'll bring her home.
And I love how Zach still is like, don't call me Z-Man. Okay, Z-Man. It sounds like a lie if I've ever heard one. The sort where he omits things so people don't fret, and I'm not sure whether I should be happy he cares that much to do it. There shouldn't be a need for this between us, is there? We grew up together, didn't we? He knows I'm capable of at least hearing out the truth without it gnawing at me for the rest of the day. He knows me better than that. I know him better than that. Frankly, there's plenty of other things to say about this. But despite and after the trouble he went through, with how things are moving at the moment, only one thought occurs to me. What should I say? I recognize his concern for what it is. It's not new for him to go out of his way for us, and to be honest, this is what I love about him. As much as I would have loved to take this off his hands, it'll only be selfish for me to insist, concerning he knows of my other commitments. To do so feels like I'll be trampling on that kindness he seldom offers to anyone.
Sorry for putting you up to this.
Nah, don't mention it. You've got other things you need to worry about. Take care of those first. This is a small thing.
I still owe you one.
Oh, I can name a few things you can do about that. You know, there's this ice cream shop that opened near the movie house. I could use...
Okay, let's stop right there. That's enough. On second thought, maybe I'll just think about it some other time.
Harsh.
We both laugh, the sound lighter and more comfortable. Like the old days when a wayward 26-year-old is at the bottom of the list we need to worry about. This is how we find a common ground. We may not agree on a lot of things, we may see things the way the other does, but the give and take is something we've learned to get used to over the years. Whenever it's like this, confidence in him is the least I can offer as thanks.
Really, thanks for this, Ash.
I'll let you know what happened afterwards, I promise. I'll call you later. You have a good day. Bye.
I admit the way he puts it isn't comforting enough. He can be blunt like that. So many unknown variables, so many words left unsaid. I wish he'd simply lay them out all in the open, because, like this, I'm more inclined to think there's an exaggeration on the other's part. If it's from Zachary or Ashton, I don't know. In the end, all I can do is wait, go about my day, and hope for the best. Before leaving, I spare Isabella's room one last glance, disturbingly quiet now without her in it. I'll get answers from her later. For now, my concerns are best left here. The rest of the day slips away in a blur. Despite my best efforts in keeping the morning's events from surfacing in my mind, it sticks. In a way, everything today simply feels like a reminder. Every conversation, regardless of how casual, every topic, no matter how mundane it seems. I blame the news entirely for this. Recent happenings brought quite a few interesting stories to everyone's attention, mostly superstitious talk of death. And when locals talk about death here, anyone can sure as hell count on someone bringing up that mansion Isabella sold not a few weeks ago. Even my own students won't stop yapping about it. I think it's even worse than when it was put back onto the market. Now there are more stories. If this is the world reminding me of what matters or simply because the atmosphere around this time of year calls for it, I'd rather take the latter. At least then I can be sure people will forget about it in favor of another set of holidays after. Nevertheless, and this may be a painful thing to admit, but listening to them is a pleasant distraction while waiting for Ashton's call. I hope he didn't forget. The school day's about to end soon.
No, that's got nothing with what I heard.
You always hear stuff, and I'm not sure it's half of them is even real.
No, really. Rowan knows about it. He used to be in the same class with them.
I can hear you from back here, you know.
Whatever, Rowan. Anyway, the story goes like this. There were 3 of them. They entered the mansion on a dare, and they were all never seen again. No one knows what happened to them, up to this day. Scary shit, man.
Cock and bull story. Calling it now.
No, you don't get it. Why don't you ask Miss Gales then? Better yet, why don't you go inside the place? I'm betting my allowance you can't do it.
Their talk immediately halts when I look up, all of them suddenly pretending to be engrossed in their current activity. Still, a word to put a stopper to this nonsense is needed. Creativity and imagination fostered by these stories is one thing, but reckless ideas should be corrected before anything potentially tragic comes from it.
Back to your worksheets, everyone. And I don't want to hear any talk of dares or going inside that mansion. It's private property now. You'd all better stay away from it before...
At the noise, a whole lot of them go silent. You could almost hear a pin drop. The look on their faces would have made for a funny picture, but that's irrelevant at the moment. If that is a student loitering around, someone's going to be in trouble.
I'll be back. If you're done, you can leave your worksheets on my desk. Keep the noise to a minimum while I'm gone, okay?
I can sense their eyes on me as I walk out the door. A muted kind of anticipation. A bit unnerving, but it's far more agreeable than the feeling of being watched I've been enduring these past few days. Class is still in session for most of the rooms. In a few hours, once the final bell rings, however, this place will once again be filled with busy chatter and footfalls, an everyday cycle in itself. But for the moment, I let the silence guide me, my ears focusing on whatever sounds there are or there will be, searching for that distinct clanging of metal. A good minute passes, and for the portion of it, only my steps echo through the halls. And another. I'm about to turn around when the sound of it halts my footsteps. It's a little muffled and infrequent, but grows louder after every interval. With the hallway devoid of people, if I don't put a stop to it soon, it'll start to disturb the other classes still going on. Looking for it doesn't take long. All I do is follow the racket, and shortly I'm standing in front of a nondescript row of unoccupied lockers. And from inside one of them, sitting in the middle, comes the noise. Annoyingly disruptive now that I'm facing it. Like someone's pounding on the metal door from the inside, hoping to get out. Leaning forward, I try to get a glimpse through the horizontal slats of whatever's causing it. But in this light, only darkness greets me and another round of clanging. Louder than previous one. More desperate. I've heard stories before, from other schools, from a few colleagues who had to deal with it once or twice. Although, personally, I've never encountered one myself, and I can only thank the heavens I haven't, yet. But...
If this is another kid, some other student stuffed in a locker.
With a huff, I straighten up and study it briefly with a frown. Without delay, I reach for its handle and... at once, it stops. immediately replaced by a muffled sound of a mobile phone ringing. I give the door a few raps before taking my attention away. A second. Another. When nothing or no one responds, I finally avert my eyes and pull out my mobile. Ashton's voice greets me from the other end of the line, oddly cheerful in light of this morning's matters. Or maybe because I'm just expecting some grave or serious news from him. Instead, I get this.
Hey, Becca.
Well, you sound happy.
I do? My voice still sounds the same to me.
There are only two things I know of that could be the reason for that tone. Sweets, or he's gotten another lead on a good case of his. From the sounds of it, I'm going to assume it's the former, since lately that case is all that's running inside of his head. If there's ever a third one, I'd never heard of it. Yet. It could only be one of the two.
Ignore that. How's Isabella?
Drove her home a few minutes ago. I think she's sleeping now. Sorry this took a while. Z-Man gave us the puppy eyes after we tried to leave. Had some food prepared for us, apparently. We didn't have the heart to say no.
That's all right. Is she okay now?
I'm not really sure. She didn't say anything to Zach, but she mentioned a plan to take a few days off from work. It was a passing comment before I left her, so I didn't get to ask.
Must be because of Rose's death.
Could be. It doesn't seem like it from Zach's story, though. He said she was shaking when she got there.
Shaking?
The word triggers a memory. From 3 days ago on the road home from her little treat after she sold the mansion. I didn't think much of it at the time, but I won't lie, it scared me. The terrified look on her face, how she sounded when she suddenly screamed.
Becca? Still there?
Yeah, I just remembered something. Sorry, don't mind me.
Look, if you can talk to her, get the story out of her. That would be great. She wouldn't talk to Zach or me even when I tried. Maybe she'll speak up if it's you?
I'll give it a go, but I can't promise anything, okay? You know how stubborn she can get. But thanks for letting me know about this. If you want, I can get you that ice cream thing you mentioned tonight. As thanks. Just as thanks for all the trouble I've caused today.
Her face is blushing.
Believe me, I'd love to take you up on that offer, but I've got something on my schedule this evening. Maybe some other time? Thanks a lot, Becca.
There's a short pause before he cuts the call from his end, and once again, I'm alone with my thoughts. But rather than answers, all I got from it are questions. More of them, one on top of another, as if the world isn't planning to give me a break anytime soon. But that's the problem I'll tackle later. Right now, I've got students who need to be taught follies of eavesdropping, if the slightly open door and their smothered laughter from inside is an indication.
All right, enough eavesdropping. All of you, back to your seats.
Is that your boyfriend, Miss Gales?
None of your business.
That's not a no. He totally is. A quick scuffle follows the comment. If there's a retort prepared at the tip of my tongue, I drop every pretense of letting it loose on them. There's no use arguing with teenagers, sometimes boisterous as they all are. They're still my kids, though. Rough around the edges, maybe, but still my kids. Shaking my head, I head back to the classroom with a smile, but not before taking a glance at the locker again. It hasn't made a sound since.
Oh, must be the wind.
So without another look, I leave it alone. That actually got me. Wow. That actually really startled me. Wow. So what's inside that locker? Is that the key to it all? All in all, the entire day ends without a hitch. It could have gone better, mind you, but with the exams nearing, getting out of work before the sun has set looks as though it's a far-off dream for now. At least until they're over, then we have the holidays to look forward to. There really are times when you simply take what you can get for the time being. There's that elevator music again.
Nothing wrong with that.
All I'm hoping for is this'll continue until the whole day ends. There's still that promise I made to Ashton, and frankly, the idea alone doesn't sound good. If Isabella didn't talk to them, what makes them think she'll talk to me? It's not like there's a hierarchy, is there? Just because I can handle Isabella's childish tendencies doesn't mean I can do it all the time.
Really, those two give me too much credit.
Nevertheless, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, if only because I'm also worried about her. And both Zachary and Ashton deem it important that somebody get the story out of her. Here's to hoping it's got nothing to do with the letter. Again. I understand if she feels a bit stressed lately, but keeping that story going on for more than a week is... it's bound to get tiring at one point. Seriously, I merely don't want this to end in another argument. God willing, the cafe's special will help smoothen things out. After all, it's always been food with her. Or money. But mostly food. At this hour, the cafe is usually filled to the brim with people. That's the reason Isabella and I rarely go here during the evenings. It's simply too much of a hassle when we can prepare food ourselves in the comfort of our homes, and there really isn't much reason to eat out lately. With with life going on a busy streak. No time for long lines. Better spend that doing something productive, yes?
Lucky there isn't one tonight.
Only few people are idling around the counter. 4 of them, in fact. A woman in her 60s and a teenager busy with his phone. Both are just waiting to be served their orders. The other 2, a posh-looking man and a child who I immediately recognize as Kylie, appear to have not yet picked anything they want. Now, isn't that interesting? We keep seeing her. We've seen her... I think we've seen her in every single scenario. Isn't that something? For some reason, my stare lingers at the guy. Oh, Idiot Face. Yes, we all know him. Though dressed relatively well and looking harmless, I haven't seen him around these parts before. Someone new in the neighborhood, perhaps. Even so, there's something familiar in him. It feels like I've seen him somewhere before. This almost begs the question of why Kylie is with him. Of course, the girl easily takes a liking to anyone who buys her sweets, so it's both a bit worrisome and unsurprising. The blonde bloke doesn't look particularly thrilled with the company, though. I tear my eyes away from them soon enough, though, once the guy at the counter appears, ready to take my order. That, and I'd also hate to be accused of ogling strangers.
2, evening special, takeout.
He's already punching the order before I finish. Saying my order out loud is really more formality's sake and made out of habit. He has known Isabella and I long enough that if we ever drop by here, he already knows it's always because I'm buying dinner for the 2 of us. I rarely visit here alone if I can help it, but Isabella can sometimes be a bad influence. He gives me a small smile before leaving to prepare my order, while I fish for my wallet, when...
Look, you little ankle biter. If I buy you the biggest parfait they have, will you please behave? I would just like 10 minutes of peace and quiet.
You asked for too much from a child.
You said you'll get me some bread pudding this time.
Yeah, well, darling, they said they ran out of it. Just pick another one so we can be on our way.
Their parfait doesn't look as cute as the one my mom bought me.
Parfait is just ice cream, sweetheart. It'll melt no matter how dainty it appears. In the end, it'll all look like an ugly puddle.
Idiot Face.
Now come on, just pick one. It could even be the most expensive one on that list. I don't give a shit. I don't care.
Watch your language, Idiot Face.
Oh, what I would give for someone to buy you off my hands right now.
I am so confused. What? My whole attention instantly snaps back to them in their conversation. Jumping to conclusions isn't something I'm particularly fond of, especially when all I have are baseless assumptions. But you can't really trust a stranger these days. No one around the cafe seems to have noticed his words either. Very suspicious words. Still, I don't move. Yet. But my hand has already shifted from my wallet to the book I'm carrying. A hardbound textbook. Looks harmless, but if a situation calls for it, it might be a good deadly weapon. Might. I haven't gotten the chance to try it anywhere so far. Today could be the day.
But you promised.
Look, if you don't want a parfait, how about a Bonifay pie? I'm sure it'll taste just as good as any other bread pudding. I'll even buy you the entire tray. How does that sound?
That's not what you said before.
Well, sweetheart, adults change their minds sometimes.
You said if I come with you, you'll buy me a bread pudding, and I did, and now you won't keep your promise. I want to go home. I miss Mama.
No, darling, if I remember correctly, and I have a good memory, honey. What I said was, if you come quietly with me, I might buy you one. The quiet part didn't happen. Though now that I'm sober, I think this is a bad idea. I should just ship you someplace else for that peace and quiet.
Oh, that's it. No hesitation. In a few paces, he's within my reach, and without warning, I'm slamming the flat area of the book against his skull. Ow! Good night, idiot face. There's a cry of pain, followed by him instantly crouching down, hands nursing the sore spot. Almost comically, if this was a different situation, and the safety of a St. Giretti student isn't at stake, I'd probably feel sorry for him. I mean, has anyone seen how thick this book is?
Get behind me, Kylie.
Miss Pink!
It's amusing how fast her expression changes from the pouty one earlier to something that of utter delight upon seeing me. But there's no time for any pleasantries, not even quick ones, because soon the man straightens, and I'm readying my favorite newfound weapon for another hit. Except this time he's ready, and before I can land another one, his hand shoots up to catch my wrist in a firm hold. And the look on his face.
Bloody hell, woman, what's your problem?
To say he's pissed would be a complete understatement. Had I been the weak-willed sort, I'd probably cower under his sharp gaze. But that simply isn't how I roll. If he thinks he can scare me and do as he pleases here just because I'm a woman or whatever his reasons may be, he's got another thing coming for him. So instead, I return to him with the same intensity, with the same venom.
What's my problem? You're the one who has a problem here. Rotten bowbags like you don't deserve the freedom to run this town. What are you doing to this girl?
And why is that any of your business, pray tell?
Oh, it's my business if I make it to be. Now, release me or I'll call the police.
Oh, you think that scares me, Daisy?
I have a name, you sleazy douchebag.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, dang. His grip on my hand only tightens when I attempt to shake it off. His tone may be dripping with anger and sarcasm, but the gleam in his eyes says it all. He's getting a kick out of this. Riling people up, getting on their nerves, invading their personal space. He knows exactly what and which buttons to push. The nerve of this person. The nerve of this arsehole! If he thinks I'm going to give in to his goading pleas, he might as well just kick his sorry behind. In fact, why not do the most sensible thing right now? Teach him a tough lesson.
Mister, you have until the count of 5 to let me go and step out of my personal space.
Oh, I want to cause him physically bodily harm. Why was that even a choice? A fair warning. Fairer than any I can offer a person of his kind, and I'm already being considerate. Hell, this also doesn't even deserve a warning. If he doesn't listen, well, he's as much responsible for what will happen next as anyone.
Or else what? Such vulgar words coming out of that pretty mouth. A gorgeous flower like you shouldn't even be saying.
Don't say I didn't warn you, bowbag.
Love that intensity, Daisy. FYI, I like feisty in a woman. It gives them this certain charm. Why don't you?
5.
A second of silence. Then, without any preamble, achievement unlocked, nuts and bolts. My leg moves in one fluid motion and delivers a swift, powerful, well-placed kick to his nether regions. Needless to say, the effect is instantaneous. He yelps, abruptly drops his hold on me, and kneels over, howling from the pain. I can see tears forming at the corners of his eyes too, though the mere sight of it prompts not an ounce of remorse from me. I would have been gentler if he isn't such a dirty little prick with an ego too big for his head. Too bad. With whether this obliterates any chances of him ever procreating remains to be known, but a part of me is already praying he doesn't ever breed after this. We have no need of more of him in this world.
You mad woman!
I warned you, you ass.
Why, this is harassment, I'm telling you! Harassment!
Then why don't you tell that to the police once they get here,
You despicable! Whatever you're assuming I am, I'll have you know it's all in your head. None of it's true.
And Kylie's just standing there like, this is interesting. That's her expression right now, like, this is interesting.
You best have that pretty brain of yours checked before that gets worse. What is wrong with you? Is this the face of someone who'd do anything suspicious?
Oh? You don't think a stranger luring an innocent child with promises of sweets before whisking them away from their parents doesn't warrant any suspicion? You have a very funny definition of suspicious, asshole. Maybe you're the one who should have that head of yours checked.
The kid asked me to buy her sweets. You're the one who's suspicious here. I'll have you know, I have a wife.
That much at least appears to have a sliver of truth to it. He even makes a show of brandishing his left hand to my face with much flourish. Sure enough, a wedding ring is there, though all that earned him is an unimpressed glare from me. Immediately, a small part of me starts to feel sorry for whoever, whatever, poor woman married this sod. I don't understand why he has to bring her up either, as if the mention of her alone will magically present a solution to his problem. She must truly be a remarkable woman if she can handle a dirtbag like him.
And even my wife of all people in this bloody city, has never, I'm telling you, accused me of such a scandalous thing! You crazy woman!
Married or not, you're still a sleaze. Honestly, I feel...
Miss Pink, why are you fighting with my Teal?
Whatever words still left to be said here dies on my tongue. The same thing goes for that sleaze. Beside us stands Kylie, gawking at us with the same curious stare she often brings with her. I know that look all too well, a precocious child through and through. She doesn't say anything further. Her gaze simply moves between us, eyeing us both carefully, clearly anticipating an answer. From my experience, when it gets like this with children her age, it's a sure sign they won't leave you until you've given them an answer they're satisfied with. Lying won't do either. It is dissolved into a shouting match, for heaven's sake. And did she just say Tio? Something falls straight to the pit of my stomach after that. But my tone is gentle when I finally address her, void of any apprehension and what might be the first signs of embarrassment. I pointedly ignore the latter. It can very well just be the hunger speaking.
Kylie, sweetie, do you know this oaf?
Yeah, he's Teal Luke.
Right at the moment, my brain stops. Every line of thought, every argument I still have against the man beside me dissipates in a haze. So you remember when Hana was like, we should set up this room for our niece? Ladies and gentlemen, I think this is her niece. Amidst all of it, one memory gets triggered from a few days ago.
Tio? The one you mentioned before? The uncle? The guy Rowan wanted to impress? Or was that a dare? I'm sorry, I can't recall. Is it the one who promised he'll take Big Brother someplace cool?
Yeah, the one and the same. Don't you know who he is?
I sure as hell don't, darling. Because if I do, I wouldn't have let everything I've said earlier come out of my mouth.
He's my Tio Luke. Gazillionaire extraordinaire, am I? No. The fairy godfather.
Oh, he's your godfather. That's nice.
The one and only. Did I get that right, Tio?
More than right, sweetheart. I'm sure Miss Pink here understood everything you said quite perfectly.
Whatever it is that landed at the bottom of my stomach prior has shot straight up to my face and stayed there. The heat from it slowly spreading to my cheeks, coloring my face in almost the same shade as my hair. If only the earth would swallow me whole here and now. His eyes are on mine. I could feel them, jeering, mocking. I can't even bring myself to look at him. What's in there? Amusement? I doubt it. He's probably having the time of his life right now. But I know I can hear the sneer in his tone alone when he talks. He has that smug grin on him, which I may or may not want to punch off his face at present just for the hell of it. But damage control. I need to do some damage control before the whole thing goes south. I'm going to apologize to Kylie. Luke doesn't get an apology. He's idiot face. Of course, an apology is the most appropriate thing to say. But no matter how much I will myself to do it, my own body refuses to budge. My own mouth refuses to open, and my head rejects the very idea of looking at him. No apology for an asshole. Not to mention someone with an ego too big for his head. Let his pride suffer. I'm not going to eat my words for the sake of stroking his damn ego. Less reason for him to gloat. Kylie, however, I owe an explanation.
Don't worry, Kylie. I'm not fighting with your Tio. This is just a discussion. A very serious discussion between a very mature adult and one that's not.
Really? But I've never seen Tio angry before.
It's because he's losing the argument. But don't ever follow his example, Kylie. You should always learn to be patient, even if things aren't going your way, okay?
Oh sure, a discussion. And it involves hitting random strangers you meet at a cafe with a book. A hard-bound book. Mind you, the little me hasn't recovered yet. If my future generation never survives from this, we are going to have more than words, woman!
I don't allow Kylie to hear his tirade and cover both of her ears with my hands. Okay, that's an expression on her face that I was expecting. Like, should I be worried or should I be excited? Like, that's what she's saying right here. As fond as she is of this man, there are words he shouldn't be saying to in front of a child. How can he not know about that? More importantly, how on earth did someone like him become a godfather? Who allowed it? Maybe I should talk to Mrs. Suarez about it. Warn her how he's not a good influence on her children.
Language! How can you use such crude words in front of her? Your goddaughter can hear you, for heaven's sake.
Oh, and you didn't. If I remember everything correctly, you called me a rotten beau.
So you're going to repeat it in front of her, just to make a point? What, are you 5? Even 5-year-olds are more sensible than you.
If she can destroy his ego as much as possible between now and the end of the story, oh man, it'll be a glorious day. Even Isabella, I can say that with much certainty.
Even 5-year-olds are more sensible than you.
See what I mean?
Are you fighting again?
Oh, no. Like I said, we were just having a discussion. We're actually done now. But you need to promise Miss Pink you will never grow up like this guy. Good kids don't do what he's doing.
But I like Tio.
And I'm quite sure Tio likes you too. But liking people is different. Just because you like him doesn't mean you have to be like him. There are better role models for you aside from him.
Like you?
Not exactly what I'm trying to get at. But if that's what you want, I don't see why not.
Okay, I want to be like Miss Pink someday. I want to be a teacher, and I promise I won't be like Tio, even if he's a gazillionaire.
Wow. Turning my own goddaughter against me. How mature of you, Miss Pink.
His tone makes me pause. For the first time since the talk started, I look at him. Briefly, something flashes behind his eyes. Something close to what might be an expectation falling? Dismay? I can't be sure. It passes almost as soon as it appears. What's that about? Does he actually like having Kylie around? It doesn't seem like it from the get-go, but if that fond smile on him is anything to judge by, then maybe...
Don't worry, Tio. If you buy me bread pudding tonight, I'll like you again.
Aw, if that's all it takes, consider it done, sweetheart. We might have to find another place to buy it from, though. Somewhere safe, where a random crazy woman isn't going to attack us out of the blue. Let's go.
Okay. Bye, Miss Pink. I still like you, just not more than Tio anymore. See you.
Kylie's already pulling him to the cafe's exit before I can protest on it. Although it's not like there's anything to object on further. I may view that man, Luke, as someone hateful, maybe to the point of seeing him as an eyesore, but I don't think that'll have any bearing on what the child thinks of him. When you think about it, if she admires him so much like that, then maybe there's still something agreeable in him. A part of him only Kylie sees. He still has the gall to wink at me before they both disappear behind the door. So maybe not. However, there's no moment to ponder on it. Seconds later, the guy at the counter waves me over and hands me a paper bag as soon as I've paid. He offers me another smile before I leave. Normally I return it simply for the sake of returning it, or I don't at all, with the latter happening more commonly. For the time being, I do so freely. After that encounter and the scene we've caused, seeing a friendly gesture being extended to me, albeit from a person I barely know on a personal level, it feels like a reassurance despite bearing no promise of better days. I take what little I can of it with me as I step out into the night. And this is where we're going to save the game and continue next Sunday. Hard to believe I've been playing this for 10 days now. We've got a whole lot of stuff to look forward to. So I'll be back on Tuesday to play, hang on, I have it written down here, Thunder Kid on Xbox. So yeah, that should be a whole lot of fun. And I'll be continuing my playthrough of this next Sunday. Remember, we archive all of our streams on youtube.com/EastAsiaSoft, and this game is available for you to order through PlayAsia physically on Nintendo Switch. We got limited editions and standard editions available. Take your pick. I'm getting the limited edition myself. I want that beautiful artwork and soundtrack and all that fun stuff. I'll see you all next time. On behalf of EastAsiaSoft, I have been Skull. Have yourselves a great day and a great week, and I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.